Welcome back to the sixth episode of the Uncle Jay podcast. I'm your host, Uncle Jay. Tonight, I'm here with a great friend, Roseann Rabiola. We will be discussing some new things with the Clean New Deal. But before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know that, yes, we will be doing the episode 2 of the con. But we want to run through this. This is something new. It's big, and we want to go ahead and run through this. And once we're done doing this, we'll go ahead. We'll get episode 2 of the con started, and when that's done, we'll come back. We'll discuss it for a short time. Have any questions answered if there are any from the viewers, and then we'll get done and shut it down for the night. So let me go ahead and introduce you all to Roseann. She's been here. I believe this is your third episode with us here at the Uncle Jay
I think
Podcast.
so.
Yeah, I believe so. So why don't you go ahead and explain to the folks what is going on? The architect Patrick Lovell couldn't be with us tonight. He'll be with us next episode. He had some business to take to. So, we won't have him tonight. But we have Roseann, and she's right on the ground floor with Patrick in this. And so she'll be able to walk us through this and explain it to us very well. And without any further ado, Miss Roseann, take it away.
Hello. Thank you, Uncle Jay.
You're welcome.
I spent not last week, but the week before, I was in Chicago because it was the week of the Democratic National Convention, and I wanted to see if it was any way, shape, or form like what 1968 was like. Now, I know you weren't even born in 1968. Patrick was born in 1968. I was already out of high school for a year in 1968, and it was a real crazy year for me. Okay. I was always looking for direction and things like that. But the fact of the matter is this: I was always looking for answers. That was one thing, looking for answers. Another thing was I was always involved in my community. Okay. Always involved in my community. All right. So in 2020, I get introduced over the internet to Patrick, and I'm helping promote the con. They did the premiere in 2020. I saw episode 1. I did not have a lot of background, nothing like that, okay? But I saw episode 1, and I knew at that moment in time, without any doubt, that all the pieces now fit together for me. And I was old 4 years ago, okay? I was 71 years old 4 years ago. So I always tell this to Patrick. Patrick, I was predisposed to accepting and understanding, not just accepting, understanding and wrapping my head around the con. And now all people have to do today is go to thecon.tv and they can watch all 5 episodes for free. But we're going to be showing all 5 episodes. We showed one week before last. We're going to show the second one today. But what's new and it's been a hectic week for me. When you're away and you're coming back and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right? Wash clothes and do all that stupid
All
stuff.
that, yeah.
So anyway, We launched the website this week. All right.
All right.
We launched the website. The website is called The Clean New Deal. Okay. Are you able to scroll down just a
Yes, I
bit?
am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can
The
you
other way.
see? You
The other
let me know when you want me to stop.
No,
Introduction
go the other way. Go the
up.
other way. Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I want. I want them to get the feel for it. Okay.
Okay.
I want them to look at that. It was a very conscious decision for me to say Patrick Lovell presents The Clean New Deal. That was conscious on my part. We have that name. We have Patrick Lovell presents the clean new deal.com. We also have the clean new deal.org. If you put in either one of them, you're going to bring up the website. But here's what I want you to think of. Okay. And this may be a little challenging, but that's okay because we have very smart people who can wrap their heads around this. Okay. So before we start going into the Clean New Deal website, I want people to think about this. Those who are following us, I want them to think about what's the relationship between qualified immunity, and I'm going to stop there for just a second. Jay, would you say people understand what qualified immunity is?
I would assume they should by now. I mean, I believe it to be, isn't it immunity for law enforcement where they
Yep,
are, yeah, yeah. They have
absolutely.
blanketed immunity, and what happens is when a department is sued for any kind of they sue the taxpayer instead of the actual officer who committed the crime.
Okay.
So
So,
that's what I gathered
right, right, right,
it
right.
being. Yeah.
But for the benefit of those who don't know, and that's okay because people learn stuff every day. So think about the relationship between qualified immunity, the electoral college, which people understand, and why should a little teeny tiny state like Wyoming have the same kind of legislative
Representation.
power or clout
Gotcha.
as a big state like California? Ain't right. Ain't
No,
right.
we no, we did. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Then we have this wonderful new thing that the Supreme Court comes up with, this frickin' presidential immunity. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. People are still rolling it around. What are we going to do, presidential immunity? Come on. Don't be stupid. Don't be
Yeah.
stupid. Nobody's above the law. I don't care who it is. Okay? I don't care who it is. And then,
No, and we
right?
all know everybody in this country knows and understands that no one is above the law.
Yeah,
Or it should be that way, but we know it isn't. So
that's right. That's right. And then the last thing that we have to think about is the illegal, and I'm going to stress illegal use of Federal Reserve Act 13.3. Now, for folks who aren't familiar with us, Federal Reserve Act 13.3 was only to be used in extreme emergencies where the Fed could help out. Say, I believe the first time it was ever used was back at the turn of the 20th century, like around 1913, something like that, okay, where they were helping out agriculture, okay? What happened during the Obama administration, 2008, 2009 mainly, the Trump administration, and the Bush administration. The administrations were using illegally an emergency act to give money to bankrupt institutions. Does it sound familiar? Like bailing out banks? Because, like,
Yep.
we really got, okay. They're giving them the money illegally. And they keep doing it in various ways. In various ways. Now, we are going to have a specific white paper on the website about all the details with links to go to all the documentation backing up Federal Reserve Act 13.3, where people can see it right there, right in front of their face. Okay? But all you need to do, over the last 4 years, we've laid out so much information. And it's all in now, the website, The Clean New Deal. We've got documentation, we've got the con, we've got the new untouchables, the Pecora files, we've got Patrick Lovell truth bombs, the con. We have, it's all in one spot. Okay. Now, if you take a look at the homepage, the Clean New Deal it's a declaration to reboot the American dream. Now, how many people have had not only their dream squashed, but have lost their lives, lost their houses, lost their family? Do they not want solutions to what has happened to them? All they have to do, come here, come to the Clean New Deal. We've got the material. All they've got to do is take the time. See, this is where I get really, I guess the word is kind of judgmental, okay? I say to myself, why can't people simply go to a website or go to an article or go to a tweet and read it? Why can't they do that? Why? Are they that busy that they can't do it? No. That's what I say to myself. If I can do it, how come everybody else isn't doing it? But we've made it real easy for everybody, okay? Now, here, in a nutshell, is what the Clean New Deal is set up for. It's actually set up to rip that power back from the billionaires, the oligarchs, that class of people, and return it to us, to we the people. So how do you do that? What you got to do is you have to reconstitute Glass-Steagall. And what did Glass-Steagall do when it was set up during the first part of the FDR administration during the Depression? Glass-Steagall separated investment banking from commercial banking. You don't take the investments of regular people and play games with them. Okay, you don't do that. No. Investment is over here. The people are over here. You don't go fooling around. Okay, that's one thing. Reconstitute Glass-Steagall. Another thing, we got to end Citizens United. When Mitch Romney said corporations are people, I thought I was going to faint. Well, I just wanted to kind of, maybe kind of slap him around a little bit. But if we don't end Citizens United, the money keeps pouring in and the contributions keep going to the Democrats and the Republicans and going towards the legislation the billionaires and the oligarchs want. We got to stop it. We got to stop it. Okay? We have to show, we got to expose, put it out there in the open that the Federal Reserve, we got to demonstrate this to them. They've taken $71 trillion. There's 1,000 billion in a trillion. $71 trillion that was stolen illegally. Okay. Gave it to these, as my friend Tom Murphy, and people, if they saw episode 1 of The Con, they'll know who Tom Murphy was. He was the law enforcement officer who ran the undercover police unit. Okay. The money went to the criminals in suits with no shame. And what could we do with $71 trillion? Okay. Couldn't we get off of fossil fuel and regain the whole energy paradigm? Couldn't we have Medicare for all? Couldn't we fund education properly? Could we not use that money for infrastructure, for public transportation, and to fund the regulatory bodies who are supposed to be protecting us from the criminals, and they're not. They're supposed to be protecting us. They're not doing that. They're not doing their job. Okay? They're not. We could do so many things. Okay? We gotta, I'm going to just go back a little bit. We gotta end qualified immunity. We gotta expand the Supreme Court to at least, say, 13. And we have to have a real binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. But what else do we need, Jay?
We need the people.
Okay. We need people to enforce that code of conduct.
Yeah, yes, definitely some kind of ethical probe or something, because
yeah,
they're,
we gotta have law enforcement doing
their job.
job.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
Okay? We have to end the Electoral College. No more of this. Little states can call the shots with a few million people as opposed to the bigger states. We have to end these forever wars that only cause death, destruction, devastation. And at the same time, we have to wage a war on corruption, on the white collar crime. And this is so important. We got to stop this revolving door of people coming from here, there, and everywhere. I'll use one example, the white shoe law firms. They go from there, they go to the government. They were not elected, they were appointed. They make the law, they write the laws, they tell the Congress, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. So then, after the administration, what do? They turn around and they go back to the place from whence they came.
Yep.
And make 10 times as much money because now they know.
Yeah, taking advantage of the rules that they set. Now they
That's,
know how to take advantage of those rules, and they go back and make tons of cash on the backs of the taxpayers.
that's right. And then there's one last thing. And this is where we, the people, really have to come together. We have to ask Mr. Governor Tim Walz. He was a teacher. He was a coach. Okay. Did he teach his students and tell all those kids that he came in contact with, did he tell them that this United States of America was designed for billionaires and the apparatuses within which they work? Was it designed for them to get free money? Not only free, but illegally. At the same time, boosting and propelling these criminals above the law and above market forces. We have to say, Governor, is that what you taught your kids? Is that what you taught your students? He's going to say, of course not. So, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to listen to us, we the people, who are promoting the tenets of the Clean New Deal? Now, I'm not always right, okay? I'm not always right, and I'll be the first one to admit that. There's a difference between Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. And I'm not a betting person anymore. But I would put a little bit of money on the fact that Tim Walz could answer that question and say, I would never tell that to my students. Okay? And let it sink into his head. What do you think, Jay? What's your feeling about how Tim Walz would react to that question? And would he accept the Clean New Deal?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I believe he would. You know what I mean? And, I would hope that he would know that this isn't going on and standing by and doing nothing. And I will hope that, he is, a common American like the rest of us, a blue collar worker, teacher, coach, I would assume that he would know that that's not how it's supposed to be, and that he and Kamala should do something about it if elected president and vice president of these United States of America. So that's what I would say. But who knows nowadays? You know what I'm saying?
And we have to have something more. We got to have, like I would say, the real meat and potatoes. You can't simply say, I'm voting for this person because I hate that person. It's more than that.
Yeah.
It's more than that. Okay. Now, I'm going to kind of get off my constant. Hey, I did that for a long time, Jay. What the heck?
Yeah. Hey, I let you go. You were doing great.
I
You know me. I won't. If you're cooking, I'm gonna let you cook. Do you want me to go ahead now and bring this up so that we can
yeah,
go down to
you
the
know
next
what I'm
section?
going to do before you move?
Okay.
I'm going to have you. Do you see my cursor or not?
No, I don't see your
Okay.
cursor.
Are you able, if I say start at the left and just put your cursor by the Clean New Deal, not click on it? I don't know if you're able to do that.
Yeah, I'm able to do it.
Okay.
I've got my cursor there.
Okay, just kind of show them. Here's the Clean New Deal. If you go
Okay.
across the top.
Here, this is what I can do. Now, can you see that?
Yes. Okay, it's just your cursor small. Perfect. Okay. Now.
And I can move it now too.
Yes,
So
perfect. So here's the Clean New Deal. Here's our mission. Okay. Here is, how does this, the Clean New Deal, how does it affect you? How does it affect each and every one of you?
do you want me to click on that, Roseann?
You know what? Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
We're
All
going to
right.
go across the top.
Okay.
Then the various ways that you can support our cause. And this is kind of really exciting. We have New Deal swag. And we'll click on that because I want you to see that. Our t-shirts, our bumper stickers. Okay, there you go. Look at it.
Yeah, I got you. Beautiful.
Okay. Go ahead. You can.
Women's, men's. So we've got bumper stickers, pins, hats, cell phone cases. I like that. T-shirts.
Yes,
I
yes.
like that. Now, is that it, or is there more?
There's more to come.
Okay,
No,
so for right now, that's it. We've got 6
there
items.
is more to come because we have lots and lots of hashtags that we use.
Okay.
Okay. And so our wonderful designer, I call him Tashi. His real name is Tosh, Tosh. He's wonderful. He's not only a great web designer, but he's a super good cook too. And that's how I met him. When I say I share facts and food, I ain't shitting you. Okay.
I dig it.
I do that. I met Tosh through somebody that used to bring food to a park where I used to serve food. Okay. She told Tosh about what I do at Hebron. Tosh called me. I talked to him. And the next thing you know it, Tosh is making food for me to bring to Hebron. So that's how I met Tosh, because of the food. And now what has he done? He has created the website for us. He's created the website, and I just love it. Okay.
Yeah, I see 4 things I'll be purchasing. I'll be getting the bumper sticker, the pin, the hat, and the gray T-shirt with the flag and the Clean New Deal on it. I like that.
And
Kind of
there's
matches with the
different,
hat.
yeah, and there's
Yep.
different colors too. Okay.
Oh, there's different colored
Oh, yeah, yeah.
shirts and stuff. Oh, okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Then
Awesome.
after our New Deal swag, we have contact Patrick Lovell. Yeah, click on that. Look at
Yep.
this. You can contact him. Let
I'll
him
do it right now. I'll put my information in right now.
let him know what you're thinking about. He's always, always available. But here's the thing: you and me, what does that equal? That equals we, the people. And he tells you who he is. Okay? He tells you we're in this for integrity. We're in this for justice. We're in this for sustainability. We're tired of the lies, the betrayal, the corruption that's all over the place. Nobody knows. The lies are so overwhelming. People don't know which end is up. They don't know. Their brains, okay, I say their brains have been pickled in the Kool-Aid. Okay. So it's, they can't think.
Yeah.
They can't think. Well, we're gonna wake them up. We are going to wake them up. That's what we got to do. And we can do that when people see, and then you can go to the bottom. Go to the bottom. See,
Yep.
look, you can go from here too. You can say, you click right on that. Who are we the people?
Oh,
Look at
look at
this. Okay. And it tells you here's the truth. Here's the truth behind the information that we share. Okay. Look, and it's not very long. Yeah, just go down a little bit. All right.
yep.
Look,
See, he's got
that's it.
the con is
Then,
in there. You can go right to the con from
then
here.
is this the America we want? Ask yourself these questions, people.
Mm.
You can go back or you can go forward. Go ahead, click on that. Look, is
Wow, this
this
is
the America
beautiful.
we want? Look at that. We don't want this, no matter who you are, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, green, pink, yellow, fuchsia, organdy. I don't care who you are. Are we satisfied with the America that we have? And if we're not, we need to wake up, to open our eyes, to watch, read, and share the solutions. We can do this, but we have to get lots and lots and lots and lots of people together. We have to do
Yes.
this. Now, do we hold these truths to be self-evident? Look, do we? Everybody says, oh, trust me, trust me. They lie. They lie, they lie, they lie. That's what they do. I was a little kid. I was about 10 years old. And I knew they were lying to me. So I go to my grandmother and I say, Gram, how come this? How come all the headlines of all? We had a lot of papers that were delivered in my day. Okay, I'm talking, this would have been 1959. Okay, we had the Chicago Sun-Times, the Chicago Tribune, we had the Chicago American, and we had afternoon editions of the papers as well. So, how come they all got the same headlines? Who's making up the stories? There's only one story. I don't think so. I don't think so. And it was a lot easier there. Oh, this is great. I love this. I love this quote. This is
From Game of Thrones, if I'm not mistaken.
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Yep.
This is Jon Snow.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, he
Okay.
is. Yep.
I have to admit, I watched an episode or two of Game of Thrones, but I did not follow it at all.
Yeah.
Okay. But the
A
beauty
lot
of
of people. A lot of people have though. It's big. So
that's right. And I want them to wrap their head around this. I want them to understand it means more than simply a quote from Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. This is about life. When enough people make false promises, words stop meaning anything. Then there are no more answers, only better and better lies. We cannot exist that way. We cannot exist with better and better lies. We have to show people 1 + 1 = 2. They don't want to believe it. They will watch every kind of crazy cockamamie thing on Twitter, on Facebook, on
TikTok.
TikTok, on Instagram, on everything. They ignored the truth.
Yeah, they won't take 10 minutes to look at this website, but they'll spend hours on TikTok flipping up on that screen watching, silly videos all night. It boggles my mind, especially when the information is right here at your hands. You
That's
know what
right.
I'm saying? You don't have to go anywhere to get it. You don't have to pay for it. It's all given to you free of charge and right here. All you have to do is just move your finger and click the button to number 4. Who am I? I'm assuming this is about Patrick.
Yeah, a bit, a bit.
Okay.
And then we go into various, you know, how everybody's always talking about the elephant in the room.
Yes.
Well, we have somebody that was a former president and he was facing 91 felony counts, and there was a unanimous verdict, 34 guilty, guilty, guilty.
Straight on down
Okay.
the board.
And what did he do? Okay, he falsified business records. When you lie, when you make up shit on your business records, it's a crime. And he's still footloose and frickin' fancy free.
Yep. But Michael Cohen sure had to do some time.
And yeah, and Mr. Epstein didn't get a chance to talk, did he?
No,
No,
he didn't.
no,
Nope,
no,
he didn't.
no, no, he didn't. So yeah, go ahead, go down, Jay, and then I'm going to have you go back. So
Okay.
see, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take serious ideas, draw you in, and have you digest things in bits and pieces. Tosh did this so that people will take the time, read what we've got there. We have so much.
I mean, this is beautiful, Rose. This is
We
beautiful.
have, just a wealth of information.
and it's all free. I mean,
It's all free.
you can
It's all
choose to support with the swag and things like that. But they're not asking for anything. They're just asking for you to digest the information and stand with
share it.
us in the fight.
Share it. Share it.
Share
Share
it,
it.
yeah,
Share it.
share it.
Just keep saying the clean new deal, the clean new deal, the clean new deal. That's what we want. Now, dig a little bit deeper. Oh, okay. Here we're only at 5. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
That's all right. We got as long as it takes. And like I said,
No,
we still got episode 2 of the con coming to them. So,
okay.
let's
So again,
get comfortable and
yeah,
enjoy the show.
as I look at this, it's to me, it's easy to digest. It's not some, 500-page technical book. It's a lot of information, but it's not.
It's
It's
nice though. I like this a lot.
okay.
It's beautiful.
It's eye catching. It's
Yeah.
appealing. Okay, of course we want that. Of course we want that. We want to draw people in. We want to do whatever we can do to give them the truth. Because apparently, all the American people seem to want to buy our lies. Where do they buy? They buy lies from everywhere. Every
Yep.
which way they buy the lies.
And a
Okay.
lot of them accept it just because it's the way they feel. You know what I mean? I think a lot of his followers, supporters, whatever you want to call them, they're just not nice folk. They have hate in their hearts, and you know and so they gravitate to this clown. And so some of them you probably are never going to be able to explain to them what this man is really all about. But there are some that you can, and that's what we're hoping for. We get
See,
enough of them.
well, but here's what I think. If you feel that the government has screwed you, which the government has, if you feel you haven't gotten a fair shake, if you feel judges and lawyers are against you, would it not make sense to go to the Clean New Deal and look at what it is that is being presented so that we have real solutions? We're presenting real solutions. When we did a show, the last show we did, no, not the last show, but the show before that, I cut a little 48-second clip out of that, and I went like real crazy. I said, cut off their money.
I
Okay.
remember that.
Now, when I say cut off their money, I mean we have to put an end to the Federal Reserve illegally using Federal Reserve Act 13.3. We got to stop it. We got to stop it, stop it, stop it. When we do that, and the criminals, these financial terrorists, as we call them, when these financial terrorists are not getting the fuel, the coke, the injection to continue, they have to stop. When you cut off their money, when you prosecute them, when you put them in prison, I'm not saying we're ever going to be perfect, but when you do that, we're going to have a lot better country. A lot better. When we have a common sense code of ethics, of course, for the Supreme Court, but I would say a code of ethics for everybody in government if they're supposed to be serving us.
Absolutely.
Right? Not only do
Absolutely.
we want this code of ethics, we want people out there enforcing that code, those laws. We
For
have,
sure.
because if the criminals keep going and going and going, and that's what they're doing, nobody pays a price, nobody goes to prison. You know, what do they send? This one, they send Sam Bankman-Fried to prison. Okay. Anybody talk about that?
No, I
Hush, hush.
ain't heard nothing about that.
Okay. So, how come that is? Who's telling the media what to say?
Yep.
The people who got the money.
Absolutely.
The
Because they
people.
don't want to be next.
Yeah. Okay. And they got it sweet right now. They got it sweet. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's punishing them. It's got to stop. Okay. It's got to
Yep.
stop. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Okay. Let's go to our, where are we at?
We're on 6, our
We're on
reality.
6. Okay. 6. And then we got 2 more. Okay.
It's time to, you know, it's time to make the government work for the people.
Is that not simple?
Yep. It's time. It's long overdue. Like enough is enough. You know what I'm saying? And this is the start right here, the Clean New Deal.
But as long as the people keep accepting the lies
Yeah.
and then tell the lies and keep repeating it, nothing's going to change. We,
No, you're absolutely right. It's time for, folks who want to see things change. They're going to have to get some skin in the game. You know
that,
what I'm saying? You can't just sit on your ass and your hands and just say, oh, well, nothing I can do about it. It's just been going on for, decades. Ain't nothing I can do about it. Well, no, you're wrong. There is something you can do about it. Same way Martin Luther King made civil rights happen, same way women got their rights to vote and things of that nature, same way the LGBTQ community got their rights in some states, but it just, you gotta have some skin in the game. You can't just, because if that's the case, then nothing will change. It'll just stay the same. So
well,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, no, no. But the other thing is, you're absolutely right. Slavery was abolished. We thought, at the time they thought this is never going to go away. Are we
Yeah.
perfect? No.
No.
Are we perfect? No. Trust busting. Yes, Teddy Roosevelt broke up monopolies and trust. Was it perfect? No. It's never going to be perfect. That's because we're not perfect. We're not perfect, but we have to get, just like you said, skin in the game to change it. To change it. Otherwise, sit there twiddling your thumbs, and what happens when it all falls apart and we can't breathe and we don't have enough water, and people are living like Soylent Green, what happens then?
Yeah, absolutely. Then it's anarchy. It's chaotic. It'll be, people will be killing each other over, basic essential needs. You know what I'm saying? So, it's time that people wake the fuck up, get off the TikTok and Instagram and the Facebook and the Twitter, and get, like I like to say, some skin in the game and make it happen, because we're running out of time. And that's just how I see it.
Well, I don't know. I think there are a lot of people who believe that we collectively are running out of time, but don't know what to do and feel powerless. So the Clean New Deal is the vehicle to empower people. It can do this. I don't know how many times I talk on the phone with Patrick. I don't know how many times a day. Okay. We've been doing this for 4 years. Now, I hear him say lots of things all the time. I've watched The Con a number of times. I've watched The New Untouchables a number of times. I transcribed and put together. We'd have a transcript generated from all the 19 episodes of The New Untouchables, but I'd have to go in there and listen to it because it doesn't do the punctuation right, and it doesn't separate speakers because it doesn't know who the speakers are. So I did that for 19 episodes. Okay.
Wow.
Then we started with Patrick Lovell, Truth Bombs the Con. Okay. I have listened to every single Truth Bomb, and I think we're probably at 510 Truth Bombs.
Yeah, you got quite a bit of them. And
Okay.
again, let everybody know where they can go check that out at.
All they have to do, it's really easy, because I saw if they go in a Google browser, if they're using Google Chrome or regular Google, just type in Patrick Lovell, Truth Bombs the Con, and it's the first thing that comes up.
Yep.
The first thing right on YouTube. Okay. I used to write for about 300 of those Truth Bombs. I wrote descriptions.
Mm.
And then we just got involved in so many things, and my computer was taking so long to have me upload and do all of those technical things that Patrick had a better connection, so he's doing it.
Gotcha.
I have heard these things many, 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 many times. The other day, he said to me, the $71 trillion truth. And you know what happened? It was the other day, the other morning. I felt chills go up both of my arms when he said $71 trillion truth. When he said that, and I've only heard it a bazillion times, it still makes me think, what are we doing in this country, in the world? Come on, people. Come on. Let's get together.
Yes.
Let's get together and share this. Do this. We can make it happen.
And this website is the blueprint to the $71 trillion heist. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That was
Yep.
put on the taxpayers by using Federal Act 13.3 illegally. So, all you have to do is just go to the website, watch the con, soak up the information, and reach out to either myself or Roseann or Patrick Lovell on Twitter, YouTube, leave a message on any one of the episodes, and you can,
Yeah.
link up with us. Contact Patrick right here off the website. And go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's
And
go
we
to
can get
our,
this
what are
movement
we at?
started.
What are we at?
We're
At
on 7
7?
now. We're on
Okay.
7. What are we going to do about it? Or well, what are we going to do?
So what are we going to do? We know. Okay. All right. Let me see. Oh, okay. Good. All right.
Yep, I got it up. I just brought it down to some of the
No,
text. I got
that's
7.
okay. That's
So, and I'm trying to
perfectly fine.
scroll down slowly so that they can, and anyone
Sure.
who's watching can read along with, what, and like I said, they can always go back when we're done, and check it out themselves. But I'm trying to go slow so that we can touch on all of it. Go ahead.
Okay. We're fighting an uphill battle that we call the righteous grind. It's like we're at the bottom of a mountain. No shoes, lots of snow, 100-pound pack on our back, and we're walking backwards up the hill. Okay. We need millions. We don't need every single person, but we need what you call a critical mass.
Yes.
We need to get the word to Tim Walz. We need to get the word to him. We got to do it. We got to do it. Okay.
Now, can we also reach out to local representatives and things like that by contacting them and saying, hey, take a look at this, the new clean deal or the clean new deal, website, whatever, attached to a message or anything? Like, I'm sure we can do that as well, right?
I have been doing that and doing that and doing that.
Okay.
What's at the forefront right now is the presidential race. And that's
yeah. No, I got you.
Okay. That's okay. He's like at the top, but I keep sending it to people who are running for Congress, who are running for state rep, who are running for local offices. Everybody. Because this is the heart and soul of what we, the people, should be all about. Okay. And again, I'm not naive at all, but I know for damn sure we're never going to have perfect, but we have to work towards helping each other and improving the situation that we have right here, right now. Okay.
Absolutely.
You know what? Go back to the
So was that the last? So 7 is the last one, or no, 7 is our reality. I believe. Yeah. Nope. 7. There's I think an adjacent one. He's got the solution. Join the fight, and then there's one here that says, "Oh, this is our reality." That's 6. Okay, so there's 7 parts. Gotcha. Okay, what part do you want me to go back to?
I want you to go back to the homepage.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep going
mission.
back.
Just go back to mission, right?
Well, mission, yeah.
Oh, that's our mission statement.
All right.
Okay.
Here's our mission statement. Here is also, okay, if you go up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Here are all of his articles as well.
Here are articles that Patrick has published on X. Okay. And, he's been having problems with X. Here we have somebody who's talking about free speech. Well, Patrick spent a week in what do you call it? Twitter jail, X jail,
Yeah,
whatever. Okay.
yeah.
And it was only today that his follower count went up to 10,300 people. And I think something
Awesome.
was wrong there. Okay.
Yeah, I think he should have had more than that. It sounds
Yeah.
like his number should be much bigger.
Yeah. Well, look, I've only got like 3,300 followers.
Yeah, I'm
That's,
at about I'm hovering around 4,500,
yes.
somewhere around there. A little bit close to 4,500, and then that's on my private account that's attached to the Twitter, so that they can watch the episode on Twitter as well, live when we're live. Like right now, if they're on Twitter, they can go to my private account and watch the show live, as well as on YouTube and StreamYard. But I also have the Uncle J podcast account, and I think we're at about 1,015
Yeah.
followers or something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's free speech for the MAGA right wing extreme cult crazy people. They can spew all the hate and bullshit they want, and it seems like that's all I ever see on my timeline. But when it's people who are speaking truth and real messaging, it seems like they just screw your account up. They slow you down. Not the right people aren't seeing the messaging, and so it seems that I think all Elon is worried about is engagement. He just wants engagement, and I think that's all he cares about.
What I like to say is he dangles the next shiny object
Mm-hmm.
in front of people
Yep.
and they grab it.
Yep.
Grab it.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree.
Say, right, say weirdos, say cat ladies, say this, that, or the other thing. And why did they do that?
I don't know, man. I don't. This app has become so toxic. Mind you, I started my private account in 2013. Okay, and I enjoyed it back then. I had followers. I was able to communicate with people. And everything was cool. I liked the way it was ran. It had ethical, responsibility. It had, rules. And if you broke the rules, they dealt with you how they felt necessary. But now that he's taken it over, I mean, outside of Spaces, I really like Spaces. I think Spaces is a really unique, um, you know, option that people can use to further their messaging. But outside of that, man, it's become toxic. This entire app has just become toxic. And it's just a lot of hate and bigotry and just meanness, and it's not what it used to be. So I'm hoping at some point, um, you know, it'll get back to being what it once was, but I don't think it ever will. I think this is the new Trump social, or Rumble or whatever you want to call. You know what I mean?
Well, the funny thing is, I'm laughing. It's not funny, but Patrick and I went and we tested out Spaces to
Mm-hmm.
see if he and I could do a Spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was fine. So half hour later, we go on there. Patrick invites me, all this stuff. Now I can't speak. My microphone is on, but I can't speak. He can't hear me. And the other people who were on listening, they could hear Patrick, but they couldn't talk either.
Yeah, it
But
sometimes it's like that. You've got to kind of know how to work it. You know what I mean? Maybe what we'll do is we'll set up a space together, the three of us. I'll host it. Patrick and you can co-host with me, and I'll kind of explain and show you the intricate, parts of how you bring
Good.
people up and drop people
Great.
and things of that nature. Because sometimes if someone can't hear you or you can't hear them, it's just as simple as dropping down and coming back up. You know what I mean? But if you're not used to being in spaces and using the tool, you don't really understand what it's all about. So I've got a really good grasp at it. I've been using it now for about a year, with my Bills Mafia, friends and such. And I go into some other rooms that are political and things like that. So I kind of got an idea of it. So definitely
Good.
we'll have a conference call and discuss that. We can, it would behoove us to do like maybe a space once a week or something, for an hour or 2 hours
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yep.
because it's really a good tool to use, and it could help the messaging as well. You know what I mean? But I love this website. This website is amazing.
All right. Let's see. Go down a little bit. Let's see.
Okay, that's the
Our
mission
mission
statement, our vision
statement.
statement. Okay.
And you can also see at the very bottom, people can go
Oh, okay.
to Facebook or X or YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, click on YouTube and see if what we're going to see if you go to YouTube. You should see Patrick Lovell, Truth Bombs the Con.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Are you seeing it?
You know what? I am not. And that's probably,
Maybe it takes a
no,
second.
you know
You
what?
got it?
No, you know what? I have it open in another window.
Mm.
That's why. Okay. Yeah,
Okay, well,
I have it
can
open.
our viewers see it or no?
Oh, yeah. Our
They can
viewers
see
can
it?
see
Okay.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Because I see Patrick Level Truth Bombs the Con. That's what I'm looking
Yep.
at right now when I hit that.
That's
Okay.
right. And we
So,
have 512 uh, truth bombs. Do
yeah,
you
that's a
believe
lot.
that? That's just
No,
right. We have
that's a lot.
512.
And that's
Okay.
great because it gives people an opportunity to, put an episode on when they're doing something around the house or whatever have you. They can throw it on the TV while they're cleaning, picking up the house or sitting, eating lunch. It's very accessible. You throw an
Yep.
episode on the TV. Everyone's got smart TVs now. It's they're they've been made so affordable that everybody's got smart TVs. It's got YouTube right in them. You just go to YouTube, punch it in. I do it with the grandkids all the time. They watch their cartoon shows and such. So it's real easy to get to it and take a look at these episodes. And there are quite a bit of them. So, I
Yep.
encourage people to, check them out and get into the fight with us
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
need people, we
Yeah.
need people.
You know what, Jay? Click on left hand corner, the Clean New Deal. Click on
Okay.
it up at the top.
Oh, and it
Oh,
goes right back to the
yeah.
main thing. I
Now,
like that.
you now go down
Okay.
and we're going to show you. Okay.
Did I go
Here,
too far?
yeah, just go right there. Okay.
Right here.
So
Okay.
here's our introduction. But you know where we just went through each one of those sections?
Yeah.
If you go down, keep
Okay.
going under uncovering the truth. They're
Oh,
here.
they're all right here in order. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So
Okay.
it's in a
So we
couple.
missed one. We missed one. We missed what are no, we got one. We did one. What are we going to do, right? Or did we just do the 7? I think we did what are we going to do? Let me see. Yeah, we did. Yep, we got 8. Yep, we got it. Okay. All right, let me go back. Okay.
Now, go down to the bottom. Here's the problem, the solution. Okay.
And what to do about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I
Now,
love this. This is amazing. Your guy did a great job.
keep going. Yeah, lots of writing.
Yeah, I see here. I like this. Why join us? Accepting the new clean deal and following the works of Patrick Lovell is your act of integrity and courage. The movement populist tidal wave is the answer we need to D-Day, Project 2025. The truth is the antidote for the mega zombie apocalypse that is spreading Trump contagion like an STD for vile fascists. I love it, man. When you live in
Yeah.
truth, you live in light. When you live a lie, you are deprived. When you have the truth, you're bulletproof. And when you live a lie, you die inside. Stop lying, stop buying lies. I love it. That's his motto. That's Patrick's motto.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
I
like
love that.
it?
Yeah, that's so great. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Now
So where else
here,
did you? Okay,
I'm
go
going
ahead.
to show you one last thing here where it
Okay,
says on the right hand side, frequently asked questions,
right
FAQ.
here, FAQ. Gotcha.
Okay. So it tells you what is the Clean New Deal, and it tells you the technical part. We are a 501c4 LLC. Now, we are going to apply for a nonprofit status. What that
Okay.
means is a 501c3 and a 501c4 are two different entities. What we are, a 501c4, may, excuse me, if you make a donation, which I'll show you you can do, if you make a donation, it may be tax deductible. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so we are looking into that. Okay, and it says what is the Clean New Deal? Tells you who Patrick Lovell is.
Yep, right here gives a
Tells you,
background about him,
yep.
and then
Tells you who I am.
oh, hold on, it gives. Sorry about that. I got you. I hit
That's
the
okay.
wrong button. Now we go to, and it's got your little Roseann. Yeah.
Yep,
Yep. Beautiful. Beautiful.
and you'll even be able to see tons and tons of columns that I wrote for the local paper.
Oh, okay. And those are your opinion pieces for Boulder City Review.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Very good. Yeah, you do. Oh, good. Click on support our cause. I want to
Okay.
see
All right. Hold
up
on.
at the top.
Up at the top here.
Yeah, support our cause.
Okay, we're up here. We are right here. Support our cause. Oh, okay. Here it is right here. Ways to keep the ball rolling. Support the cause. Join the movement for a cleaner, fairer, and more equitable world. Together, we can dismantle the corrupt system that holds us back and create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Your support is crucial to our movement or our mission. Yeah, I love this, man. This is so beautiful. And
Keep going down. I want to see
okay.
where our
Oh, you got your shop. It shows. Oh, and then it has your donations here too.
yeah.
The
Click
most
on
direct way to
click
show
on
our.
the donation page so you can see that as well.
Oh wow, here we go. Awesome. We and our vendors are cookies. Okay. Oh, look at that. Nice, nice. Oh, that's amazing.
Yep.
Everything is protected. Look, you have the section where it says your donation will be protected to
Yep.
actually be used for the movement instead of lining, someone's pockets, like most of these people are out here doing.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
Right.
beautiful. Yep. Yeah, it gives a little bit of background on both of you too.
Yep.
Oh, I like
So
this.
you
This guy
gotta
did a
go
great job,
tell
huh?
everybody, Jay. Tell everybody. Tell.
Oh, I will be. I will be. Oh, and we got some hashtag here too. We can
Yep.
start using these hashtags.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Now you can donate with debit card and such, PayPal, all that jazz, or is it just
Yep.
okay?
PayPal,
Well,
everything. Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Well, after the show, after when we start the con, I'll get into this here and send a donation your way myself. Um,
You're a
while we're
sweetheart.
while we're doing the while we're doing the episode of the con. I can just sign up here, and that'll be great.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, where do you want me to go now? You want me to go
Okay.
back to the
Just go.
main
Yeah.
stage?
Just go back to the home page, and
Okay.
I'm gonna go get some coffee.
All right.
And
What I'll do is, so we're done. Are we now done with the clean new deal for the night? We've
yes.
given it what we're gonna give it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close that out, and I will close that out. And then what I'll do is I'll get ready to start the second episode of the
2.
con. I just want to come in here real quick, bring us out. All right, you're gonna go make your coffee. You go do that. I'm gonna
Okay.
get the whole thing set up for the second episode of the con, produced and created by Patrick Lovell.
Hey.
All right, I'll see you back here after the episode.
After
Don't go
the
nowhere. Okay. All right. Everyone, the second episode of the con. Enjoy.
Addie Polk was a prime example of what predatory lending was doing to people.
I knew that you could be tricked because I'd seen it so many times before.
People didn't go find these loans. The lenders found them.
We wanted to make sure that he was aware that the Summit County law enforcement was interested in him.
What they knew is that if they could move the ball fast enough, that they'd be able to cash their check and not have to worry about what the consequences are.
Churn this volume out. Put this stuff through as many loans as you can possibly make.
We had a huge case, but the bottom line is that we didn't do anything but touch the tip of an iceberg.
We knew something was going to happen. We didn't know how right we were.
I was never really comfortable with Addie Polk's situation. I looked through some contribution envelopes, some old contribution envelopes, and I found a couple of hers. And one of the things I noticed was she always used her middle initial. I went online and looked at the mortgage paperwork, and I noticed the signatures did not look the same. And in the mortgage document, she did not use her middle name. So I looked more, and she had called the sheriff's department, and she asked why was the sheriff continually coming to her door. Her house was paid for. Her husband paid for the house. It was paid for before his death. Why would a person call the sheriff's department to inquire why a deputy is at her door, serving her papers of eviction when her house is paid for? She believed, and I believe today, that that mortgage that was on her house was not originated by her.
Self-respect and pride is not what you take with you, but the village of kids you touch who relate to you. You gotta make a strong presence on this generation, because the legacy you leave can change the situation.
Your forefathers fought for the freedom of man. I'm just here to remind you that it can get lost again. Take control of the matter. Natural law rules shadow. We're just here to remind you that it can get lost again.
House after house, street after street, 47% of homes here are underwater.
In 2007, the county served on average 746 notices of foreclosure a month. In just the first 2 months of this year, that number jumped to 1,000.
First year I came out, we did 2 foreclosures, and then this year alone it's probably excess of 100. So
I have so many, and sometimes it's hard to get them all served.
Every week when we're out here doing this.
The wheelchair-bound man in this home says he'll stay with family while he looks for a place to live.
It's tough, but I guess you just gotta move on,
I've never been through it before, so emotionally it's very, very trying. I'm 46 years old. I've got 3 children, single parent, so it's very emotional for us all.
I want to stay. I tried to fix with the bank, but they don't help me.
I have families that are divorced. I have families that lost their job. I have one right now where he had to choose between his cancer medication or paying his mortgage.
There were at least 2 people while I was here who committed suicide, who had these loans. One of them named the lender in the suicide note.
In 2009, 2010, Vegas had 26 suicides. Lost their home, lost their job, couldn't see out the front windshield anymore.
We opened the door and he was on the couch and there was a gunshot wound to the head, self-inflicted. And we don't know why, if it was based on the actual foreclosure or if it was something else going on in his life. But you do see those and you feel for the people.
I was close to it several times. I was on suicide watch for over a year with the VA. And the thing is, it's elders that are because they're at the end of their life, they don't have the money to protect themselves, and they give up.
I know myself that you don't just lose your home. After 2008, so many of us searching for answers didn't know how many others were searching also. We blamed ourselves, as did the media. I knew I was living in my own bubble, and that is why I had to come to Akron. If I found the answers for Addie, maybe I may find them for myself. The idea that Addie may have taken her own life for an eviction based on a refi she had no knowledge of was terrifying to me. I had to validate in my own mind that it was even possible. I reached out to Paris Dubé, a paralegal specializing in mortgage documents and an expert witness in the Florida court system. If anyone could sniff out fraudulent paperwork, it would be her.
A thing that bothered me with her was her age and the frequency of mortgages. Who's going to give a woman in her late 80s on a fixed income mortgages for double what her value of her house is for? The one that we have the trouble with is the one with Countrywide. This is the one that really causes the problem here. Is this Sarah A. Egan? It looks official. It's not. I contacted the Secretary of State for Ohio. I emailed her because I asked her, I said, can you email me something? She did a search for Sarah Egan and there's no, and she says it up here, there never has been anyone by that name commissioned. I called
That's a fraudulent notary.
That's a fraudulent notary, period. So then anything that goes on with this, any assignments or anything further are all in question because the original document isn't correct. But the one that she was foreclosed on, that's the one I believe she was foreclosed on. Countrywide was not licensed as a mortgage broker, originator, or lender in Ohio on August 14, 2001. NMLS.
And that's who provided Addie her loan?
Yes. But
they're not even registered in the state of Ohio at that time?
Correct.
What do you think we're going to find?
On hers?
Yeah, on Addie's.
Just straight out theft. I mean, I don't know how else to label it. It's just, unless somebody can tell me where almost $50,000 in cash went, somebody walked off with about that much money at her expense. And they tried covering it up with a foreclosure that wasn't legal.
But Addie was not alone. It was becoming clear that the mortgage fraud in the 2000s was epidemic.
As foreclosures spread across the country, mortgage fraud complaints are skyrocketing. A result, one FBI official says, of, quote, good old-fashioned greed.
More than 400 people have been arrested since March, including realtors, builders, and mortgage brokers for scams that cost homeowners more than $1 billion.
Suspicious activity complaints have soared from 3,000 4 years ago to 48,000 last year, and already this year on track for 60,000 complaints.
And no corner of the nation was untouched as scammers coast to coast sought to cash in on an overheated real estate market.
The FBI says California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Ohio are among the mortgage fraud hotspots, but the problem is spreading nationwide.
I was stunned at the numbers. In a typical year in the county of 1.2 million people, there were about 3,500 foreclosures filed in the county. In 2000, that number had doubled. We were approaching 7,000 in that year. We saw these mortgages being made by local banks, but often national non-depository banks. There was Countrywide, AmeriQuest, other people in here. These lenders showed up and they began to make loans. They set up local offices. They found local mortgage brokers, and they put the word out that if you can bring me a body with a pulse, there's a pretty good chance we can get them a loan.
Basically door-to-door salesman. This was money chasing people. This was not somebody looking for a loan. This was money going out on the street looking for people.
They all said we were telephoned, we were telemarketed, they were targeted. And that's the first thing you learned about this whole subprime experience. All of them had these exploding arms so that their payments were going to keep going up even if interest rates were stable or even declining.
Almost every one of them had an inflated appraisal. People are figuring out, holy cow, I borrowed 145% of the value of my home when I thought I was valuing 85% because that's what they told me.
They didn't know, but someone told them, you can do this. You know, they'd share, this is what I can afford, this is who I am. And they were sold a lie and they lost everything.
Homeowners were the ones being solicited. We didn't call them, they called us.
We were being lied to. City mortgage employees continually lied to us over the phone. When I asked them specific questions, they would never answer the questions.
The further along we got into it, the more that we realized that something really dirty was going on behind the scenes. People were being paid to lie to us, paid to disappear, and they never had any intention of helping us.
And it wasn't till 2014 when someone suggested that I get forensic audit on the loan that I found out that the interest that I would pay over the life of the loan was underestimated by $700,000. It was then that I learned that the broker had got paid $8,000 outside of closing to put me in that loan. That was his bonus.
My sister, she signed certain documents, and they in turn changed those documents. They actually forged her name on some documents.
A very good personal friend of mine was actually given a truth in lending disclosure statement that he signed that misstated the amount of payments on the loan by about $1.4 million. That is a major amount of fraud. He was lied to about the very nature of his loan.
This rash of predatory lending by the mid-2000s had quickly become a felony fraud epidemic, leaving millions of American lives devastated in its wake. But a crime wave of such magnitude doesn't just happen. It started somewhere. This outbreak of fraud and predatory lending that would metastasize into the great financial crisis actually began decades earlier. Long before predatory lending blew up in the mortgage sector, it was already festering in a related industry that no one ever suspected could be so easily overrun by criminality.
More and more people are discovering savings accounts at Savings and Loans. The return is substantial, and your money is insured up to $20,000 by an agency of the federal government.
Is this the same guy who invented the folding waterbed?
That's not funny, Georgie. I almost drowned. Your Savings and Loan wants you to know how money works.
Before 2008, the largest post-depression financial debacle to hit the country was the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s. The S&L crisis was brought on by some of the country's most well-connected bankers who, through rampant fraud, nearly took down the U.S. economy. But fortunately for the country, there were regulatory cops on the beat who caught the problem before it was too late, halting the crisis in its tracks and holding accountable the perpetrators. On the front lines of this effort was Bill Black, a regulator with the Office of Thrift Supervision, or OTS.
You asked earlier for a stern regulator. You have one now in front of you. And we need to be blunt. And you haven't heard much bluntness in hours of testimony. We stopped a non-prime crisis before it became a crisis in 1991 by supervisory actions. We did it so effectively that people have forgotten it even existed, even though it caused several $100 million in losses, but none to the taxpayers. We broke a raging epidemic of accounting control fraud without new legislation because we didn't simply continue business as usual.
Bill Black had scored one of the greatest successes in the world of financial regulation, and I knew that if anyone could help me make sense of how this forgotten crisis from the 80s laid the groundwork for the greatest economic catastrophe of our lifetimes, it would be him.
So there was an epidemic of fraud that was driving the savings and loan crisis, but nobody had recognized that fact in the outside world. It was always phrased as people were just taking risks and such, and it was actually exactly the opposite. So there were 300 of these frauds in 1983. They were growing at an average rate, each of them, of at least 50% a year. That means you double in size with compounding every 9 months. So they were going to become, within a year or two, the dominant part of the industry.
These banks were growing so fast that it soon became obvious to Bill and his colleagues that something was wrong, and it didn't take them long to figure out what. These banks were conjuring their unprecedented growth by making obscene amounts of bad loans. At first glance, this seems counterintuitive. These are loans that the bank knows are likely to default and never be paid off. So how could the bank be making record profits on loans it knows will never be repaid? As it turns out, there was a method to the madness.
Why do you make bad loans? Well, let's think through if we tried it the other way. How would I get more really strong quality borrowers? You would lower your interest rate. Instead of charging 8% for a mortgage, you charge 7% for a mortgage, but only for high quality borrowers. Well, what would your competitors do? They'd have to charge 7% for good borrowers as well. So at the end of the day, have you made a lot more loans? No, because your competitors matched you. So this is a really terrible fraud strategy, which is to say they never do it by making good quality loans. But how many Americans are there that would have real difficulty repaying a loan? Tens of millions of people. So we can expand enormously, and we can charge them a higher interest rate because they have fewer alternatives.
This scam allowed banks to bring in an exponentially greater number of loans than if they had only limited themselves to well-qualified borrowers. And with this higher volume of loans, the bank could now show, at least on paper, that they were hitting record profits. But there was a catch. If the vast majority of the loans being brought in would never be paid back, that could only mean that the bank had now set itself up for failure. But why would a bank make themselves look profitable on paper in the short term, when in the long term, it would all but guarantee their own insolvency? It was this question that brought Bill and his colleagues to their greatest epiphany. Banks weren't profiting from the scam, but bankers were.
If you follow this recipe, banks are going to lose money because the accounting income is fictional, but the CEOs will make out like bandits. When the CEO is the crook of a seemingly legitimate organization, they can cause vastly greater losses and damage, precisely because of that seeming legitimacy. Indeed, famously, one of the most important non-prosecutors refuses to prosecute because he said, it doesn't make any sense to me. Banks lose money when they make bad loans. Why would they hurt themselves? And of course, he's confused his pronouns. By they, he means the CEO. And who do they loot? They loot the bank. Those are not the same people. The best way to rob a bank is to own one.
While the bank itself was crushed under the weight of these bad loans, bank CEOs were using the fictional profits to justify paying themselves millions of dollars in non-fictional bonuses, essentially robbing their own banks. The OTS had managed to solve the entire S&L fraud scheme, an accomplishment that unveiled so much illegal activity that the United States Justice Department could not process all of the criminal referrals sent to them by the regulatory agency.
Eventually, we made over 30,000 criminal referrals, just our agency. So the Justice Department said, we will get together with you to classify the 100 most significant felony schemes in the entire savings and loan industry. And it involved roughly 300 savings and loans and over 600 individuals.
So enraged was one of those bankers, Charles Keating, he sent a memo that read in part, "Get black, kill him dead." Metaphorically, of course. Of course.
Virtually all of those 600 individuals were prosecuted with a 90% conviction rate when they had the best criminal defense lawyers in the world. And that is the greatest success against elite white-collar criminals of any nation in any time period, continuing to this day.
In the late 80s and early 90s, this was huge news. The tiny OTS cleaned out an entire industry rotted to the core by fraud, saving the American people hundreds of billions of dollars that would have had to have been paid out in the form of bailouts in order to save the economy. And in fact, the whole story could have ended right here, had it not been for the one that got away.
When we start this crackdown, we are able to knock out of the industry the great bulk of these players. And finally, there's really just this one big player left, and that's Long Beach Savings. And they can see that we have them in the sites.
Long Beach was run by Roland Arnall, a fraudster who developed strip malls in Southern California. But once other S&L CEOs started getting indicted left and right, Arnall could see the writing was on the wall.
Arnall was a smart guy, no question about that, and he saw that our crackdown was coming hard at him, and he could look around at the world. We were cracking down very effectively, and so they voluntarily give up their charter to be a savings and loan. They convert to being a mortgage bank because mortgage banks are essentially unregulated. This is solely to escape our jurisdiction, because they know that otherwise we're going to shut down all these operations. And they changed their name from Long Beach Savings to AmeriQuest.
Mortgage companies are part of what is known as the shadow banking sector, which just means that they are in a category where there is no regulatory oversight. This not only allowed Roland Arnall to escape federal prosecution for his crimes in the savings and loan industry, but also allowed him to continue those crimes in the mortgage industry without fear of consequence. And once he set up shop, he immediately began peddling one particular kind of mortgage loan that would eventually help bring the entire financial system to its knees.
The key with all these kind of deals was all the underwriting, the idea, how much is the house worth? What is the person's credit history? What is their income? That was thrown out the door. That didn't matter. All that mattered was getting people to sign up for the loans, because as long as real estate values were rising, you knew that if a borrower couldn't afford the loan, in the long run, you could always refinance them again and just push the problem down the road. And so you would often get people who would get, in a period of a few years, get 4 or 5 loans to try and outrun the previous bad loan. And so you basically were able to milk a customer for years and make lots of money, and the can kept getting kicked down the road.
Roland Arnall simply cut and pasted the savings and loan fraud scheme into the mortgage industry using these non-prime loans to cheat his borrowers. And he was so successful at this that he managed to do something with AmeriQuest that he had never been able to achieve as a savings and loan. He brought the fraud scheme into the mainstream.
The analogy I've heard before was, if you look at what Disney did with the carnival business, and they turned it into big business with this sort of sheen of respectability and magic. And that's what Roland Arnall did with the subprime business. He was achieving mainstream credibility.
You have to remember just what a large presence AmeriQuest had in that point in time. One of the things AmeriQuest was really good at was marketing.
Hello. Well, how much are they asking?
Well, that's a lot of money for a deck.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but you're getting robbed. Did you hear me? You're getting robbed.
Ow! Stop!
AmeriQuest, an open-minded, equal opportunity lender.
They did a lot of sports marketing. So you'd see him on the outfield wall in a Major League Baseball stadium. They had 2 blimps, and they sponsored the Rolling Stones tour.
I'm an AmeriQuest mortgage specialist, and whether your dream is to buy a home, refinance, or see the Rolling Stones, I'm here to help.
And then ultimately, they did the Super Bowl halftime show. Except this is a very visible company by design.
AmeriQuest was making hundreds of millions of dollars each year in subprime loans in the 90s. By 2001, they had $6 billion in loans in volume. By 2004, they'd gone to more than 80 billion. So you see the growth was exponential.
By using the fraud recipe, Roland Arnall was able to catapult AmeriQuest into becoming the largest mortgage company that had ever existed. But as AmeriQuest continued to grow, it was only a matter of time before other mortgage lenders would want in on the action. And once it became clear how Arnall's scheme worked, and that no one was stopping him, the other major mortgage lenders began to copy him in a frantic attempt to beat him at his own game. Unfortunately, it wasn't exactly a race to the top.
It was a race to the bottom. People said, if I don't do it, the next guy will. I actually, in this office, had a meeting with a high-level executive at a major mortgage company who said that to me, who said, if I don't do it, the guy down the street will just make the loan. That is what happened in the mortgage market right there, encapsulated in one phrase. If I don't do it, somebody else will, so I'm going to do it.
The lenders were deliberately generating what we call in economics and criminology a Gresham's dynamic. So when I was first studying criminology, used car dealers, when we would look in a particular jurisdiction, 49 out of 50 would roll back the odometer, right? Because if you didn't, you couldn't sell your cars. And so only the cheaters win under this system, and then market forces will drive anybody who doesn't cheat out of the marketplace.
It's one thing for individual car salesmen to roll back odometers, but for the fraud scheme to work in a multi-billion-dollar corporation with tens of thousands of employees, the CEO has to somehow get everyone else in the company to play along. But you can't just send out an email to every employee ordering them to commit a blatant fraud. So how did Roland Arnall and the other mortgage CEOs manage to make their entire companies complicit in the fraud scheme? The first step was to get rid of the professionals.
Go back a few generations, and a loan officer was a vice president at a local bank who sat in a corner office, and his job was to say no as often as he said yes. His job was to reject loans that were bad risk. Fast forward to 2004, 2005, a loan officer is a 23-year-old kid with a headset who sits down at the desk and he's dialing for dollars. He's calling as many people as he can, and he's trying to get people to sign up for loans.
The quintessential loan officer's prior job was flipping burgers. In that era, that meant you made right around $17,000 to $19,000 a year. You could get, as a loan broker, the lowest person in the totem pole, $20,000 fee for one deal. More than you made all last year flipping burgers in a single deal. And so they switched from flipping burgers to flipping houses.
Fresh faces who didn't know any better was a start, but to truly institutionalize fraud, you have to weaponize the ignorance. And that's where the trainers come in. The industry looked under every rock to find the right people to train their new loan officers, none more emblematic than Christopher Cruz, whose own training was far from the real estate world.
For those of you who haven't caught Worldwide Wrestling, and Chris has been on NWA for how long?
And it's been about 3 months, and we're really on a roll. You know, increasing our stations, increasing our ratings. It's more fun than I thought, for more money than I thought too.
Chris would be interviewed by the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission about his job as trainer for hire. He had agreed to talk to us, but declined at the last minute. However, his testimony to the FCIC was available online.
I would train for AmeriQuest, and I was immediately brought on to train I'm reluctant to use the word dregs, but to bring on, to train people who have no mortgage background whatsoever, first job and out of high school or college. They had been flipping burgers, working at In-N-Out Burger. It was the warm body syndrome. They were consistently firing and hiring. Why firing? They would give a particular loan officer 20 leads that day, and only 3 of them resulted in closed loans, whereas somebody else might be able to close 5 loans out of those 20 leads. It was vicious.
They'd open an office, they'd hire 12 people, and at the end of 3 months, one of them would be left. But he'd be a superstar salesman, and they would have brought more people in, and eventually they would have their dream team of people who knew how to pick up the phone and call homeowners and talk them into giving up their information so they could start a loan application.
In many cases, the person who sold you a loan made more money if they sold you a higher rate loan. And there was actually a matrix that says, if you sell them a loan at 5%, you make this much. If you sell them a loan at 6%, you make this much more.
The mortgage broker would say to them, you had this little tweak here, this tweak here. I can't get you that rate, but I can get you a low rate, but it's going to be adjustable. But don't worry, your loan payments are more likely to go down than come up. They got paid extra. They were paid additionally, the broker, for putting somebody into an adjustable rate mortgage.
And the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission has an example of this. So one of the really sleazy front-to-back criminal operations in all of this was New Century. In almost exactly half the cases, they were able to deceive their customer, rip them off, and get a huge kickback in return, which is exactly what it is. You get a kickback if you successfully cheat your customer, and only if you successfully cheat your customer.
Sean Casello was a loan broker for Intermountain Mortgage in Park City, Utah, who was involved in these predatory practices during the 2000s. He was one of the few brokers I found who was actually willing to speak on camera. So I met up with him in New York to get his unique perspective on what the mortgage industry was like on the inside.
If it's a $200,000 home, there's probably close to 15 to 20 grand in commissions just on that one.
Oh, bingo.
But not just to me,
okay.
but that get extrapolated between the different parts and pieces of the party.
Okay.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
Everything was incentivized by the commission. You did a little bit of what did they want to do first? What are they looking for? And then you would go straight to pricing, not to their pay stub, not to their assets, not necessarily straight to their credit score. It was, okay, now of these 3, which one is it? And then you shop for the best product with the best commission.
Got it.
I mean, and that's just, that's the way the whole
works.
process worked. Now, in your heart of hearts, did you really go, wow, this is crazy? There's a no-doc loan where someone literally just gets a credit score and gets a $300,000 house? Yeah. But if I didn't do it, the guy down the street was, and there's $4,500 out of my commission that he just took.
Understanding that commissions and fees was the only incentive for the mortgage sales force, at the expense of guiding their customers into good and appropriate loans, it becomes clear that if left unchecked, there would be nothing many brokers or loan officers wouldn't do.
Another tactic that was commonly used
to perpetuate mortgage fraud was with the use of what they call straw buyers. A straw buyer is a person who really is not involved in the transaction, but who is standing in, so to speak, for the orchestrator, for the crook. And it can either be a stolen identity, where on paper it looks like this person is qualified because they've got a good credit rating, they've got this, they've got that, they've got the income, and that'll get it to closing. And that's all you care about.
Identity fraud was rampant with mortgage fraud, and particularly the elderly. So you may have a given home that suddenly had 2 or 3 mortgages on it, and the homeowner never, ever knew about it. And often it wouldn't be discovered until someone had passed away and the family was trying to wrap up the estate. I mean, these are real criminals, and some of these are real bad guys.
Mortgage straw buying had become so rampant during the 2000s that the FBI set up task forces around the country to deal with it. One of the agents assigned to their Cleveland task force was Tim Gallagher, who I spoke with to get a firsthand perspective of how truly criminal this particular strain of mortgage fraud really was.
Well, there was a big fraud scheme that we were working on up there in Cleveland, myself and the U.S. Secret Service, and there was, obviously folks who were, straw buyers who were buying houses. One of the violations which we were investigating as part of this task force is a conspiracy. It's a criminal enterprise, and it takes a lot of people to make it work effectively. So you have an individual who's usually leading this ring, and then they're recruiting straw buyers. The identities were stolen by bank employees. They would then utilize them to make a fake ID, usually a driver's license, and then the bank employee would take cash to do this. And then from there, they're off and running, utilizing that to refinance the house that you own, sometimes in excess of the overall value of the house, over 100%. And then the first time you hear about this is when your house is being foreclosed upon. And they basically steal your house.
Can you give us a sense of the scale of the scope of this crime at that time period?
On a national scale, this is a multi-billion-dollar problem. These were career criminals. They had cut their teeth committing other crimes. There were professionals involved as well. And they combined forces and they put together a high-impact scheme that impacted the country for years to come.
Straw buying was probably the most egregious way brokers found a way to make sales quotas, and similar to how Addie may have been caught in a loan she knew nothing about. Pastor Harrison, a former Akron police officer who was made pastor by the congregation to clean up apparent corruption within the church, continued to follow the questions left by the sheriff's department call card that described Addie's claims of having no idea why she was getting notices of foreclosure and eviction.
I could not believe that Sister Polk took that loan out. So what I did was I went online and I looked at the complaint. And what the complaint was, the actual mortgage application. So as I looked at the loan application and I looked at her signature, I wanted to find out if that was actually her signature. Now, we save contribution envelopes. We tally them, and this would represent everyone who is given that week or prior weeks, and we save them for 3 years. So I went here to look for Sister Polk's contributions, and when I looked at her contribution, the signature on these did not match the signature on the loan application. So I went back another week and another week and another week to see if maybe she signed her signature different. Consistently, Addie Polk signs her signature with her middle initial. The loan application did not have her middle initial, and the loan application did not even look close to her signature. I don't believe Addie Polk took out the mortgage on her home. I don't believe she signed any documents. I don't believe she had knowledge that a mortgage was taken out on her home. And I believe that that played a part in her doing what she did.
I don't think she knew. I don't think she knew that loans were being taken out in her name on her house. My gut feeling is that they thought, and I have seen this where they'll come in on an elderly person, take out a loan, and then They assume she'll pass away before they get caught because there's going to be no one there to question it. Who's going to question it? She's an older lady living by herself, no descendants. The house is gone. People are going to be happy that, you know, the house gets raised or whatever. And they just made off with about 40 or 50 grand.
As bad as it would be for a complete stranger to steal your identity and take out loans on your house, another disturbing trend emerged. In Addie's case, the person stealing from her may not have been a stranger at all.
There was a lot of what we call affinity fraud, where anytime you have an identifiable group and you have a wolf in the middle, that's affinity fraud because they're playing on that commonality.
We can send loan brokers into the smallest communities that have very few banking opportunities. And we'll send in people who speak Spanish, and we'll have all the conversations on the loan in Spanish until you get to the loan closing, where all the documents will be in English and no one will translate them for you.
Anna, who speaks little English, blames the mortgage broker for making her think the monthly payments for the 30-year mortgage would never go up.
Someone explained the mortgage, but they didn't let me know about that point. They told me I qualified, but if I had known that, I would have never taken out the loan. They tried to make it look like they were helping me, but now I could be out on the street.
Hispanic loan officers would screw Hispanic borrowers, black loan officers would screw black borrowers. And I would joke and always get a big laugh, even to this day. You should screw everybody equally, I guess was my attitude.
You would say that?
Yeah. And we would teach people how to, get close to people, join meetup groups, join, lead groups. Churches is a great way. You're a capitalist first. Ultimately, it's about closing a loan.
It was especially effective in the churches because if you're in church, you just sort of assume that you're with good people, right? Except for that they weren't. They were wolves in sheep's clothing, and they led a lot of people to the slaughter.
After being brought in to clean up church corruption, Pastor Harrison had his own suspicions as to how Addie and the other elder members of the congregation had been preyed upon with these bad loans. As he dug deeper into the church records, he stumbled upon some documents that confirmed his worst fears.
I realized what I had to do was read everything I could get my hands on. So I was reading minutes of meetings, I was reading contracts, I was going through the file cabinets. And as I began to look through these files, I began to find personal information of individual members. It was all the information that you need to conduct business on behalf of someone else, unbeknownst to them. That was chilling. There's no doubt in my mind that we had members in this congregation at that time that were taking advantage of older members, such as Addie Polk, for their benefit.
It was clear these brokers would stop at nothing to get someone like Addie into a mortgage, but simply manipulating someone into a loan didn't mean an automatic payday. If you wanted your commission, there were still plenty of hurdles to overcome.
You stand to make more than you made all last year for a single deal. But you don't get any money unless the loan is approved. Now, how are you going to get the loan approved? There are two ways to get the loan approved. One is to inflate the borrower's income, and two is to inflate the appraisal.
If you had somebody who couldn't afford the loan, if their W-2s showed their income was at a certain level, you simply took somebody else's W-2, cut and pasted your customer's loan onto that, and presto, suddenly it looked like they could afford the loan.
Brokers were devising business cards, made up business cards for their borrowers so that they could pretend that they actually had a job that they never had.
You would find that people lacked imagination to change the lie every time. So they kept the same ones. There was multiple architects and, they would just come up with the same thing, borrower after borrower.
There was a guy that came to work, took some office space up above, and no one really saw here as underwriter much. And the stories that came out of there about him taking people's packages, taking their loans, and basically rewriting them and then just sending them through.
Rewriting the loans based on criteria that would get them approved. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I look at it, he was just blatantly cheating.
He was.
I mean, that was as criminal as it gets.
I think it was AmeriQuest had people who were bragging, you can come in at 9 o'clock and have a loan by 5 o'clock, because they were going back and manufacturing all the paperwork. The lenders were manufacturing all the documents you needed to get to closing in the back room.
Have you ever heard of the AmeriQuest art department? And every branch, they had an art department. They had windows like that. And the art department was where they would either do tracings or they would create documents. You would go in there and you could smell the whiteout. So there was clear fraud involved in some AmeriQuest loans.
It took next to nothing for a broker to inflate their borrower's income. But getting an inflated appraisal was a different story because it required finding an appraiser who was also willing to play ball, or perhaps compelled to do so.
A fraudulent appraisal is critical to every single transaction that's out there. An appraiser just doesn't go out and say, hey, I've looked at this house, here's what it's worth. An appraiser is told, here's the contract, here's the value for the deal, you need to support that.
I saw emails were sent to me, somebody looking for an appraiser and said, I have a house for sale in such and such a community. I need an appraisal of X amount of money. If you can get this for me, call me. People were shopping for appraised values.
If you were ethical and you said, I'm not going to inflate appraisals, you didn't get any more business. AmeriQuest, and not just AmeriQuest, there are a whole bunch of companies like this, they stopped calling. If you would give them what they want, you got more business than you could possibly handle.
We have surveys of appraisers as to how common appraisal fraud was. First survey is done in 2003, and it shows 55% of appraisers have personally been subjected to efforts to extort them to inflate the appraisal. By 2006, that percentage is up to 90%. So this is where you go from using the word epidemic to pandemic at this point.
To corroborate this from the source, we attended an annual appraiser convention in San Antonio, Texas, where Bill was asked to speak. Here we had a chance to hear from the same appraisers who had spoken out against this extortion throughout the 2000s.
Appraisers have been the folks who should have saved us, gave the perfect warning, and we had a completely unnecessary great financial crisis because you folks were ignored. So, can you join me and say it loud enough? Did somebody warn about the appraisal fraud? Yes! Who do you say was doing it? Thank you! And did they do that accidentally? No. Is it okay to extort appraisers? No. It's a friggin' felony! Is there anyone in this room who didn't know that they wanted inflated appraisals? Please raise your hand. How many people knew they wanted to inflate the appraisals? Thank you.
Lenders, for the most part, do not want to know the real value of a house. Their goal is to close a loan. They need a document for their file to close that loan.
They would tell us, hey, we need this to come in at $1.2 million, but it was only worth $1 million. They needed $1.2 million because they had to pull $200,000 out to buy a new boat. This was every day.
It's like, wait a second, they're going to buy it for this amount. The value's not there. I promise you, the value's not there. And the lender was like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I do. I've been doing it in this neighborhood for 15 years. I know this building up, down, left, right. No one in their right mind is going to spend that much money because the market doesn't support it. Our client wants it. We're going to buy it. We're not going to hire you anymore. It was like, if you're not going to make our number, you're fired.
Lender called me and he was going off on me that I didn't make the contract price. And so after he was done, I very smartly explained to him that my job is to make sure you have a job in 10 years, that your company doesn't make a loan on something when it's not worth it. And you know what he said to me? It was dead air for like 15 seconds. You really don't get it, do you, Anna? Click, and hung up on me. I was sitting there going, I can't believe he just did that. He doesn't get it. And guess what? In 2008, I learned that I was the ass and he was the one who got it.
The person who has got the pinstripe suit, he wants what he wants, and he wants his loans to close. And if he can get a guy who's taken 3 classes and doesn't know what he's doing, but yet legally can do what he has to do in order for him to get his loan, he's going to hire those people all day long. They're not going to hire me because I'm going to say no. They're going to hire the guy who they can manipulate.
No honest lender would ever inflate appraisals. If it's not really worth $240,000, if it's only worth $200,000, you're going to lose $40,000. So no honest lender would ever do this, which means it's the perfect thing. We actually use it in the savings and loan debacle to prosecute people and put them in prison. It always, always, always means fraud by the lenders.
Equipped with both an inflated appraisal and an inflated income, there was one final hurdle a broker had to clear in getting the loan approved in order to get their commission: the underwriter.
So the process of making safe loans is called underwriting. And we've known for centuries, literally centuries, that if you don't underwrite, you get the worst possible borrowers and you will definitely lose money. But for years, it'll produce fictional accounting profits.
What happened by the time you got to AmeriQuest and this thing blew up on steroids? The underwriting standards went to hell. They didn't give a damn about whether they were going to get paid back.
From broker to CEO, the more loans that get funded, the more money everyone makes. But this doesn't work when professional underwriters are kicking out half of the loans being brought in because they're filled with fraud. And so once again, the industry went to what seems to have been its default setting: hire inexperienced people to do the professionals' jobs. And as for any professional like Rachel Steinmetz, life quickly became very difficult.
While I was in college, I got a job working for a mortgage broker who also was an Orthodox Jew. And we just ran a straight up business, 8 paper loans. We dealt with amazing clients. We gave the best service out there. And to me, that's what the industry was. The way a mortgage should have worked was you should have looked at a loan like you were going to service it for 30 years. But what started happening was the industry started dropping their standards. So when I went to Greenpoint, it was a culture shock. The way that Greenpoint was set up was you were rewarded only for closing a loan. There was no reward for doing a good job. There was no reward for taking a step back and saying, let's do it the right way. You made your money if you moved quickly and you got loans closed. They had a process that they called scrubbing a file. Now, scrubbing a file is exactly what you think it is. They would take the file and they would scrub out whatever they felt the underwriter shouldn't see. People I wouldn't lend a pen to. And I was being told to give them $500,000 without a stitch of paperwork. Over time, what I found was I was allowed to approve a loan with nobody looking over my shoulder. I just wasn't allowed to decline a loan without anyone looking over my shoulder. And it was interesting. On the one hand, we were told, rah, 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 there's so much profit, we're doing a great job. But we were also being told, you're not doing enough and we need to do more. And it was always push through a loan, push through a loan. The language was always push it through, push it through.
Rachel's professional training, as well as her personal sense of integrity, caused her to push back against these demands, fully aware that not only would these loans hurt their borrowers, they would hurt the company as well. Rachel's superiors, however, were not interested in her due diligence.
Very, very early on, I was asking a lot of questions and I started being put under a lot of pressure. My workload was being increased. Suddenly, I was a performance problem. I was being called into meetings at some points almost daily. At one point, I walked into my manager's office And she had left lying on her desk right in front of me, communication between her and HR. And she was trying to figure out how to write me up because she didn't know what to write me up for. So there was a lot of collusion that went on within the bank. And that made me feel even more isolated because there was absolutely no one to turn to internally. And it was clear that there was something very toxic within the organization going to a very high level. I ended up taking this more public than I would like. I'm a very private person. I don't like the fact that I'm even in front of the camera right now. This is not my first choice. At some point, the media picked up on what I was doing. And if you Google me, there's my name as a whistleblower. Everyone wants you to say something. You know, if something bad happens, we're all very angry that people don't speak up. But when you do speak up, people get very confused by that and they don't know how to interpret it. And it's made it very difficult for me to actually find employment. I probably haven't in 10 years had a month where I've been positive how I was going to cover my bills. And it's been scary.
With professional underwriters like Rachel out of the way, the accounting control fraud of the savings and loan era had now been successfully resurrected. Mortgage company CEOs set up their companies to generate millions upon millions of predatory loans that would wreck the company in the long term, but in the short term would allow them to extract massive bonuses from it. To do this, they hired thousands of inexperienced and undereducated loan brokers whose commissions were based upon how bad of a loan that they could coerce their customers into. The worst of those brokers lied to customers about the terms of their loans to get them to sign on the dotted line, and then inflated their incomes to get the loans approved, as well as threatening to blacklist appraisers who didn't play ball. And to make sure none of this was ever stopped, inexperienced underwriters were hired and incentivized to push through as many loans as possible, while professionals like Rachel Steinmetz were forced out. And once Roland Arnault began to run away with all of the industry's business, the vast majority of other lenders adopted his model just to keep up, to the point that by 2006, 40% of all mortgage loans generated in America were fraudulent. And because there were no regulators to stop it, a Gresham's dynamic took hold. It was only a matter of time before it would produce a national catastrophe. This insanity left most people in the industry with three options: knowingly participate in the scam, do your job but don't ask any questions, or just leave it all entirely. But there was also a fourth option: stand up against it. Before his time in the mortgage industry, Michael Winston had made a name for himself helping to grow such companies as McDonnell Douglas, Motorola, and Merrill Lynch into well-oiled corporate titans. But during his time at Merrill Lynch, he received an out-of-the-blue recruitment call from an up-and-coming California mortgage lender who desperately wanted him to bring his talents to the West Coast. The lender who, incidentally, happened to be responsible for Addie Polk's loan, Countrywide.
I remember vividly how Countrywide, how and when they recruited me. Angelo Mazzillo was the CEO of the year, and Fortune had an article called The 24,000% Growth Company, Countrywide. It was on the cover. And they said, we're not used to such growth. You've helped companies become a growth engine before. We want you to make us Goldman Sachs on the Pacific. Come here and do that, and you'll be a hero.
After initial skepticism about joining this relative newcomer to the Fortune 500 scene, Michael eventually accepted the offer. After all, Angelo Mazzillo's mission for the company seemed laudable enough to warrant taking the leap on this new venture.
Mortgages are special because they do make such a difference in people's lives. I witnessed that every single day, and I particularly witnessed it when I took loan applications and saw the excitement of people with the opportunity of getting into a home. Home ownership changes a society.
Michael embarked on this new adventure with enthusiasm, excited about the prospects of helping to grow what appeared to be an already great company into a remarkable one. Yet it didn't even take a full week on the job for the first red flag to go up.
On one occasion, I parked in the front and I passed a car that said Fundum on the plates. A guy came right from that car. Whether he was the owner or was parking it for the owner, I have no idea. But I said, Fundum, that's sort of an interesting plate. what do you suppose it means? And he said, oh, I know what it means. It's Angelo Mazzillo's growth strategy for 2006. Now, I've heard of growth strategies moving from domestic to global, moving from products to systems. Fund them is a growth strategy? How can that be a growth strategy? Oh, we're going to fund all loans. What do you mean you're going to fund all loans? What if the person doesn't have a job? And he said, well, fund him. What if he doesn't have a job and doesn't have any assets? Fund him. And finally I said, I don't understand. What criteria do you use in determining if somebody should get a loan? And he smiled very smugly and he said, if they can fog a mirror, we'll give them a loan.
Experience told Michael that no CEO of a successful company, much less one named CEO of the Year like Angelo Mazzillo, would make such a declaration. He assumed it had to be a mistake.
I thought the guy just misunderstood. And if he misunderstood, I was wondering how many other people are doing the wrong thing, just pushing stuff out the door. So I thought, oh, these bad loans are going to end up in Countrywide's backyard, right? It's like a ticking bomb.
Recognizing that these bad loans would utterly devastate the company, Michael quickly got to work in trying to correct the problem, interviewing employees across the company to gain a better understanding of how exactly Countrywide was conducting its business.
I probably spoke to thousands of employees, and I noticed a couple of things that I had never seen before. Number one, many of those people who were recruited were not recruited because they were at the top of their classes. They were recruited specifically because they were at the bottom of their classes. People who had delivered Domino's pizza for a living, and they were making a fortune originating loans, oftentimes to people who were not interested in a loan. They had the most aggressive marketing and sales campaign I had ever experienced. When I couldn't get a question answered, I went to the next level and the next level and the next level, all the way to the top, including the chairman of the board.
Everyone at the company was strangely tight-lipped about the details of their lending operations with Michael. And this proved true all the way up to Angelo Mazzillo, who instead of speaking with Michael, sent his head of HR, Leora Gorin, to deal with him instead.
He called Leora and said, no, I don't want to talk to Michael. Stop all this stuff. It puts us in the spotlight too much. We don't want to be in the spotlight. His assistant handed me a note and said, Leora wants to see you immediately. And she said, people are getting concerned about your relentless, with a straight face, questioning about our loan packages. That's not what we hired you to do, question our people on that stuff. Stay away from it. I said, you hired me because of my background. If I see something that I think is going to blow up on you or investors, I'm going to call your attention to it. Why wouldn't I?
But Angelo's word was final, and Leora was instructed to make Michael's inquiries stop completely.
I was directed to stop this line of questioning, which of course precipitated more questions. What are you trying to hide?
After having so much trouble getting to the bottom of how Countrywide was really conducting its business, this conversation with Leora finally made it all click. There was no misunderstanding about the growth strategy the gentleman in the parking lot described. Rather, it was deadly accurate.
I realized that the natural implication of the fund them policy, what if they have no income? Fund them. You don't even need underwriters. You need a clerk with a green eye shade saying approved, 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 approved. And that's ultimately what they had. That's why they were hiring people who had zero experience in their discipline. If they had connected the dots, no kidding, I think everyone would have come to the conclusions I came to, that this was a criminal enterprise.
Michael had uncovered the whole fraud scheme on his own, and the company knew it. And that's when the environment became hostile.
They never said I was fired, but that my office, the ECLO, was disbanded. Just like that, I got an email from Sharon Doyle saying we were all called into a room. Josh Claren was sitting on your desk, and he was smiling imperiously and saying, Michael Winston is not coming back. So I met with Leora. I said, what the hell is going on here? You recruited me here. I sold a house. I bought a house. My son is in high school. What do you mean? They were pounding me. They were trying to embarrass me into resignation. I said, you can do anything you want, but you can even fire me. But I'm not going to resign because you want me to. I did the right thing, and you're doing the wrong thing now. 2 weeks later, I learned years after, a target was put on my back.
This came from Mozilla, right?
Yes, he's not Countrywide. I want him terminated immediately. Was seen in court on an email drafted by Angelo Mazzillo.
But Mozilla's letter never had a chance to take effect. And that's because the ticking time bombs that Michael had been warning about for over a year finally detonated.
Subprimes are starting to reset, causing mortgage payments to go up and homeowners to default.
The defaults right now are incredibly high at unprecedented levels, and there's no evidence that the default rate is tapering off. Those defaults almost inevitably are leading to foreclosures and homes being auctioned and home prices continuing to fall.
What you seem to be saying is that there is a very predictable time bomb effect here.
Exactly.
I mean, what happened is as soon as in 2006, home values started to level off and then started to inch downward, that's when the whole sort of Ponzi scheme collapsed, because no longer could you or one of your competitors take someone out of a bad loan because there was no equity left in the house.
All of the AmeriQuest type loans, it all ends, right? They're gone. The AmeriQuest, the New Centuries of the world, all of those companies, they went out of business virtually overnight because they don't have any assets, right? They're not a bank. They don't have deposits. They don't have savings accounts. They don't have anything like that. The market froze up and they're done that fast.
This company is gone. I mean, just gone. And it was a big company and it's gone. And you saw people in there literally crying. I mean, just crying.
We were pushed to do sales. We were doing things in the branch and within the company that clearly were problematic to get the numbers up. And they closed 12 branches in June. 500 people were laid off. And by August of 2007, the entire operation was shut down.
I'd be lying to say if I didn't have part of me that said, yeah, this was top heavy for a while and we probably all saw this coming, but just hope the day would never happen when it came full circle.
Mortgage giants across the country were crumbling under the weight of their fraudulent loans. Yet as the AmeriQuests, Greenpoints, and New Centuries of the world all collapsed in ruin, one lender was still hanging on for dear life, determined to defy the inevitable.
Can you categorically say we will avoid bankruptcy?
Well, I can't categorically say, no company can say they can avoid bankruptcy because no company, it can be guaranteed it can't go bankrupt. But I can tell you, we are a very solid company.
Despite being in dire straits, Angelo Mazzillo maintained that Countrywide was as healthy as ever. And he wasn't just using this line on the public.
The story they told their people was, we're going to be stronger than before. We're going to be the only one left. Somebody said, so are you saying we should buy Countrywide stock? They said, I'm saying you should back up the Brinks truck and buy Countrywide stock. As these guys are selling their shares hand over fist, they were encouraging us to buy.
You got to remember that we're a survivor. You're interviewing me. I mean, look at, the other day, Greenpoint, New Century, AmeriQuest. We just go right down the line of companies been around for years. All these companies are gone. At the end of the day, we're the only game left in town.
Ultimately, Countrywide became insolvent. Literally, they had drained all their lines of credit. Countrywide was worth nothing and no one would lend them a penny. All of the bonuses that we were to get were stopped. Ironically, Angelo's bonus didn't stop. He earned his highest bonus the year that Countrywide became insolvent.
Once the dust settled, stories began to emerge that Angelo Mozillo had been paying himself at least 5 times more than any other CEO for a similar-sized company, despite the fact that the vast majority of the company's profits over the course of the decade had been fictional. As authorities investigated Countrywide's collapse, the giant bonuses extracted by Mozillo raised a giant red flag, which ultimately led to federal charges being filed against the former CEO.
The Securities and Exchange Commission filed suit against Angelo Mozillo, former head of Countrywide Mortgage, accusing him of insider trading and fraud.
The government claims that in 2006, Mozillo knew Countrywide was engaged in risky lending practices and headed for collapse, even as investors were assured all was fine. The SEC claims in a 2006 internal email, flying blind is how Mozillo described the company's financial picture. If criminal charges are brought and successfully prosecuted, Mozillo could be forced from his gated community into a jail cell. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
As echoes of the S&L debacle became ever more apparent in the now growing mortgage crisis, federal authorities began to open investigations on nearly every CEO of a major mortgage company. But where the S&L investigations had led to thousands of industry insiders being hauled off to prison for fraud, the investigations into mortgage lenders led to a much different outcome.
What replaced prosecuting companies criminally and what replaced going after individuals at the highest levels were settlements for money. Corporations wrote checks and settled with the government and then promised not to do it again.
Angelo Mozillo, he did have a big settlement with the SEC, but it was largely paid for by insurance that Countrywide had taken out for him. Same goes with several former executives from Washington Mutual. There was a big settlement with them, but again, the amount they paid was something like $400,000 between a few of them. And then tens of millions of dollars were paid by these insurance policies that had been taken out in case this happened to them.
The people who architected this huge systemic fraud have done 10x what they need to do to spend the rest of their lives in jail. Yet, no one's been indicted, no one's been prosecuted. The systems that we think protect us from the bad guys, in actuality, protect the bad guys from us.
And for the ultimate illustration of this point, you need to look no further than what finally became of the man who started it all.
We went after Roland Arnall when he was a savings and loan. That was strike one. Then the Justice Department comes after him for discriminatory lending. Then the Federal Trade Commission comes after him. And then 49 state attorney generals come after him. So depending on how you count it, that's 3 or 4 strikes already for Roland Arnall. And as I always say at this point, so with this 3 to 4 time loser, did we A, prosecute Roland Arnall, or B, did we make him our ambassador to the Netherlands? And of course, we made him our ambassador to the Netherlands.
Who made him, just to remind us?
That would be the second President Bush. Roland Arnall was the largest single political donor for in many time periods.
Arnold and his wife became the single biggest contributors to the Bush-Cheney campaign in 2004.
Is there any way to talk to you just for a minute about this?
Something he was not eager to talk about during the campaign.
Such a wonderful brighter up.
At his Senate confirmation hearings, Arnold said he was not involved in day-to-day operations at AmeriQuest and blamed the problems on rogue employees.
When we found out they were let go, an action was taken so that it wouldn't happen again.
In the end, the little guys got punished, whether it's whistleblowers who did the right thing and they lost their jobs, or whether it was the small timers, loan officers and mortgage underwriters who committed fraud. They were the ones that got punished. In terms of prosecutions of high-level people who were involved in fraud, had knowledge of fraud, not much has happened to them. You know, Roland Arnall died a billionaire.
A woman is sitting in her home, minding her own business, and people are knocking on her door wanting her house. And to know that fear that she would turn the gun and shoot herself rather than have somebody take her home because she doesn't understand hurts, because all I could see was her face and her confusion and the pain. And they did it all for money, and that hurts.
The tragic
story here is Addie Pope and anyone else who has lost their life are not here to tell their story. And we've moved on. We've moved on. And I hope, I pray that we can come to some sort of common ground that people need protection from those who are seeking to make profit. People need protection.
The foreclosure crisis triggered by the collapse of these predatory lenders swept the nation in late 2006. Yet as devastating as it was, once the dust settled, it seemed the worst was over. And that's when certain officials, like Minnesota Assistant AG Prentice Cox, noticed something strange. The predatory lending wasn't slowing down. It was speeding up. There was something critical here he knew that they had somehow missed.
As we talk about these cases, what you'll see is we went after somebody and then they went away. And we go after somebody else who was always the number one subprime lender in the chain. And then they'd go away. And then, but we couldn't kill it. We couldn't kill it. So I went to a colleague who was one of the masterminds behind the tobacco suit. And he's a really creative, thoughtful thinker. And I went to his office and I said, well, let's just run something by you. You think I'm missing anything about how this works? And what we're doing. And he said, how do they get their funding? And I had looked at their security filings. I said, looks like it runs out of Wall Street. And he's like, well, why don't you go upstream? What's Wall Street's responsibility here? At that point, I finally understood this is an integrated system. This is something where Wall Street is actively involved in making this occur. It's not some passive relationship here. There's Wall Street money. It flows into these entities. These entities make loans, package them up, give them back to Wall Street. Wall Street then sells them as securities and slices them into tranches, et cetera, right? So AmeriQuest and its brethren were salespeople for the money that was coming out of Wall Street. This is one integrated lending system, and that sucker is rolling down the tracks completely out of control.
Welcome back, folks. That was the second episode of The Con. It was very interesting. I'm still shocked at how, like he said, they're protected. We're not protected from them. They're protected from us. So, again, I would encourage people to, go to thecon.tv. You can watch the other 3 episodes. You don't have to wait, for our next episode to watch episode 3. But, we encourage you to come back and watch it with us. And, that way we can discuss it with you and talk about how this whole situation is why Patrick Lovell and Rose have created the Clean New Deal and have put so much time and effort into it, because this is what we need to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. And then, like I said, this is only episode 2. It gets much, much better. Rose, did you want to say anything before we wrapped up?
I just want to tell folks that the con is the blueprint. If they want to understand what's happening, watch the con. Then go to the website. Then watch the new Untouchables, the Pecora Files.
Yep.
Then watch Patrick Lovell as he truth bombs the con. There is so much, but I would just encourage them. We can't do this without people, without real people like you, like me, like Patrick, going out there and sharing this. We've got to share the message. We've got to continue to ask Governor Tim Walz, why was the United States of America founded? Was it founded to and designed to give billionaires and their billionaire apparatuses all this free money illegally? And at the same time, these people get propelled, they get boosted above the law and market forces. We have to tell Governor Walz, is that what you taught your students? I bet he's going to say no.
Yeah, for sure.
If he's going to tell the truth, tell the truth.
Absolutely.
Right? Tell the truth. Share.
We need this to go viral. Like if there's never been something that has needed to go viral, this is the type of thing that needs to go viral. Like this needs to be, the con needs to be playing in every home across America. We need to be sharing this. We need to be talking about it. We need to be pushing the Clean New Deal. The great thing about the new website is that you can contact Patrick and Rose right from the the site. It has all their information for Twitter, for Facebook, for YouTube. It's not hard. Reach out, join the movement so that we can make sure something like this never happens again, and something like Addie Pope never happens again. You know what I mean? Because, that's what I always come back to when I watch an episode is Addie Pope, and the fact that, she was alone, she was elderly, a widow, and, she was taken advantage of. Here in this episode, we see that, her signature was probably, not hers. Yeah. Forged. She didn't even know that this had happened to her.
Right.
And, it's sad because she lost her life. And, we got to make sure that we protect our seniors. We can't let these types of situations happening. And the fact that they go into low income neighborhoods and take advantage of these folks, not only black folks, but brown folks, and, anyone who can be taken advantage of. This is set up like some kind of, strategic game and playing with people's lives. And it's disgusting.
So share.
Yes. Share.
Okay. Because failure is not an option.
Absolutely. And so we want to, let everyone know again, Patrick wasn't able to be with us. He was, had prior engagement he had to attend. What I will do is we'll talk. We'll see if maybe we can get maybe Wednesday we can do episode 3, and then maybe Saturday we can come right back with episode 4 and 5. I don't know. We'll talk.
Sure.
I just want to thank everybody who tuned in. For the ones who came late, I encourage you to go back and watch the show in its entirety. I think it was a great show. We discussed some serious things. We talked about the Clean New Deal, something that Patrick and Rose have been working on for quite a while now. They're the architect of this deal, and they've set up the website. It's easy to get to. Rose, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what they can do to, get to that website and how they can interact, and we'll get up out of here.
It's very easy. All you need to do, type in the Clean New Deal.org, and you'll be taken right to the website. Please do, and please share. Thanks so much, Jay.
No problem. Thank you for being on the show, and for everyone who stuck around and for everyone who watched, thank you. And until next time, stay blessed.
A remix, repeat this, a reintroduction, conceive this, a whole new genre to breathe with, reproduce, so smooth on the mic and the light, my own moves, give it life, right from my own view, words mature and then grow groove, I'm the soul improve, work on me, wake up in the morning just to work on the beat, so intuitive, that's how I gotta be, when I'm in tune with the room and the God in me. It's true, never lose that. I never come through with a loose rap. Tighten up, time to enlighten them, striking like lightning and hope I don't frighten them. Boop. Recited for you to get you excited and hype. Move with the rhythm tonight, beautiful type. Women in my inhibitions, I'll move to the side. Music's my only religion, surrounding myself with only musicians. Only the best, solely uplifting. With this combination, my music is infinite. Ideal situations, stimulate them. Wanna inspire and motivate them. My goal is take them to a higher level, let the pain escape them. It's euphoric, are you for it? I promise I know you have a use for it, so let's use it. Get into it, no matter what we call it, it's soul music.
Thanks for tuning in to the Uncle Jay podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and catch us next time. This is Uncle Jay signing off. Stay blessed and always go Bills.